I'm tired of seeing my mom or my mother-in-law stressing out on Thanksgiving Day. They're always running around. I'm like, everything should be done by now. Everything should just be in the oven and we should be sitting here having a cocktail. So that's the goal for today. Starting with the stuffing. This is called stuffing because this recipe was written to be stuffed inside of a turkey, although it's very reminiscent of a Southern style dressing, which is what we have. And I'm just gonna go ahead and chop up my onions and celery. For the most part, seriously, everything can be made ahead. And it's not just the day before. You don't have to stress out just in one day. A lot of these things can be made 3 days before. So space it out. Make yourself a little to-do list. Now let's talk about the bread. This is just a variety of leftover bread we had laying around. So I just kind of popped it in a low oven just to like dry it out. So now it's like croutons, basically. I'm gonna take all of our dried out bread and just process it until it makes like chunky crumbs. It's also good to do if you have like flavored bread. You know, they have those hearty sourdough loaves that have rosemary or something in them. That would be delicious to do this with. All right, now we cook and bring it all together. If you've never made stuffing or dressing, let me tell you, this is like just a basic recipe. And I don't say that in a negative way. I think people have gotten too fussy with trying to make gourmet or, you know, kind of non-traditional sides. I like classic when it comes to my Thanksgiving sides. And I, for one, am here for the sides. So, starts with a lot of butter. Then we're gonna saute our onion and celery in this butter. If you have any like leaves of the celery, include that in there. That's the best flavor. All right, so we're just gonna cook this until these veggies start to soften. And then I like to go ahead and add in the herbs. And we know like the fat kind of helps transfer the flavor throughout the whole dish. So go ahead and get that fat flavored. Poultry seasoning is something that I only see during Thanksgiving, but it does have just that distinct smell of Thanksgiving. And this recipe calls for a little additional sage. It also calls for dried thyme. And in case we have never met, I just don't like dried thyme. So I've got fresh. Dried thyme has like one place for me, and that is like in some Cajun cooking. I'm also gonna go in with some salt. That's gonna help these veggies soften. You want them to be soft before we add them to the bread. They're not gonna get much softer beyond this point, even when they bake in the oven. So I'm just gonna cook this down. This process is gonna take about 10 minutes. See how the onions have gone from like all white to semi-translucent? When they're translucent, you know that they've softened and they're gonna kind of melt into the stuffing and not be like crunchy. Pour this flavorful goodness over our bread. Also have not added pepper yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And then you're going to start adding chicken broth, and you're gonna do that until this whole mixture is moistened. I like to do about a cup at a time. I like it super moist when it's like going in, because after it bakes, it tends to dry out a little bit, so I go a little heavy on the stock. You can, at this point, put it into Ziploc bags and keep it in your freezer, and then it's ready to go into your casserole dish when you're ready, or you can stuff it inside of your bird. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in a casserole dish. Tempted to just put a little more butter on top. Stuffing is ready for Thanksgiving Day. You can stick it in your fridge or your freezer just like this also, but because we can't wait that long, I'm going straight into the oven. Reminder though, when you pull this out of the fridge after you've made it ahead a couple days, it's going to be ice cold throughout, so you wanna pull it out like at least a couple hours before you wanna put it into the oven. If you put it in while it's ice cold, you can almost double the cook time. Hot and steamy, but the smell, This is still pretty moist. I don't even know if I need gravy. Using the flavored bread, good idea. I know I said I chose like a basic one, but it's really kind of perfect. Let's see what it looks like with a little gravy on it. This is the perfect bite of Thanksgiving. Great make-ahead stuffing recipe. Add this one to your file. Next up, sweet potatoes. I'm doing just an easy, again, classic sweet potato casserole. So the recipe calls for mashed sweet potatoes. The easiest way to do that is just to bake your sweet potatoes whole. Instead of peeling, cubing, and boiling them, which is a lot of work, the flavor on these is a lot better. It's more concentrated. It's like a deeper, rich sweet potato flavor. You just cut the skin and then the flesh will just slide right out into your bowl. You might see a little browning on the sweet potato flesh. That's good, because that means some of those sugars in the sweet potato have caramelized and you're just gonna get better flavor. See how easy that is? It's way easier than peeling. And your cleanup It's just that easy. All right, now we mash. In goes sugar. I don't necessarily always want mine to taste like dessert. I don't like it to be super sweet. So I'm gonna cut the sugar back a little bit of milk, melted butter. Gotta have something salt and your something sweet, and a little vanilla. And now these ingredients kind of cooled off the sweet potato, so now I can add in the egg. And the egg just kind of lifts this up, so it makes it, a little like a souffle. You don't want to scramble those eggs, so make sure your sweet potato has cooled off slightly. And then that's it. This goes into your casserole dish. While it appears to be a little loose, when it bakes, those eggs are gonna help it, kind of come together. This one is at the point where it is ready for the fridge or the freezer. But also, we're gonna go ahead and make the topping. The topping is going to be a cup of brown sugar. Also going in with a little flour. This is gonna make like a streusel topping. I'm over the marshmallows, Some pecans. And more melted butter. I could just eat this with a spoon. Being that this is make ahead, you would go ahead and add it to a Ziploc bag. Cover your sweet potatoes. You want to keep these separated because when they come straight from the fridge to the oven, the casserole is going to take a little longer to cook. You don't want the topping to burn if they cook at the same time. So give your sweet potato casserole a little head start in the oven, then top it halfway through and finish the baking. Sweet potatoes been chilling. I'm gonna get these in the oven since they're cold inside and give them a head start, and then I'll add the topping. That was 375 for about 20 minutes just to give it a head start. The original cook time is 30 to 45 minutes, but that's when it's not cold at all. So I'm gonna start with about 25 to 30 minutes from this point forward. I like the amount of topping, just sweet potato casserole. Back in we go, 375 for 25 to 30 minutes. Look at this. Does that not look divine? You're gonna wanna let this sit for about 10 minutes or so before serving. Creamy, crunchy, sweet and salty. This one's gonna have it all. And why do I keep saying perfect, but I feel like it's perfect. I'm glad we added that salt in there because it balances the sweetness perfectly. The topping is also sweet, but ironically not too sweet, even though it's like mostly brown sugar. I still don't know if it's dessert or side dish, but whatever it is, it's delicious. Next up, the cranberry sauce. You've gotta have cranberry sauce. Now for me, we're for sure gonna have the slice and eat can, but also it's nice to have the fresh made cranberry sauce. And this one is not your typical. This one is called Cranberry Sauce Extraordinaire because it has so much more than cranberries in it. And the reviews, some people just eat it with a spoon. You can serve it over cream cheese. You can do whatever you want. So it calls for cranberries, fresh or frozen are fine. The cranberries frozen are the closest thing to fresh. But also in this goes pear, an apple, and some oranges chopped up. In the reviews, I saw that this one's kind of like a sweeter cranberry sauce, so they wanted to keep some of the tartness. So they suggested use a Granny Smith versus a sweeter apple. While I'm doing this, I can get my simple syrup going. The recipe calls to start by boiling some sugar and water, which is a simple syrup, equal parts. I'm gonna go a little shy on the water since I'm using frozen cranberries and those are gonna have a little bit extra water in them. Just get this heating up while I finish chopping my fruit. All right, it also calls for an orange that has been pureed. I just really don't feel like pulling out a food processor to puree an orange, so I'm just gonna finely chop it up. All right, it also calls to add in a cup of dried mixed fruit. I think that's open to whatever you want that to be. The things that I thought would be good, some dried pineapple, raisins, but I chose the golden raisins, and then cherries because duh. And these are tart cherries because I don't want it to be too sweet. I still like that tartness in the cranberry sauce. Nature's candy. Chop this up and then we just throw it all in the pot. So you want your sugar water mixture to come to a boil just until the sugar dissolves and then we throw everything else in. First in, the star of the show. Add in all our chopped fruit. And this is really gonna be good. Also going in with some chopped pecans, a little bit of salt, and then some cinnamon and nutmeg. So when the cranberries start to cook, they're gonna pop. They're also gonna release some pectin, which is really gonna help, thicken this whole mixture up. That's it. So we bring this to a simmer and we cover it and then just let it go for about 30 minutes. This cranberry goodness smells so good. And you can see all those cranberries have burst. It's turned that deep red color. This is gonna be one of those things that's gonna thicken as it cools. So I'm just gonna take it off the heat and let it cool completely before we serve it up. Look at this cranberry sauce. See how it's thickened? Now that it's cooled, everything has settled. It's that beautiful red color. You can see all the texture. I'm just gonna take one little taste. I'm not gonna eat that whole bowl, even though I probably could. I already know I'm gonna my mouth just started like tingling. That is good. It is tart still. Plenty of tartness from the cherries. All those other fruits have just kind of blended in with the cranberries. You really can't like pick them out too much. There's not a huge difference in texture. It's just the nuts that give it the texture. I will be making this year. You should too. A dish that does not take up your stove or oven space and can be totally prepped ahead of time. The mashed potatoes. These are creamy, slow cooker mashed potatoes. Now the recipe does call to boil your potatoes and then finish everything in the slow cooker. We're doing it all in the slow cooker. We're gonna cover these in water, just enough to cover, and then you're gonna drop in 4 chicken bouillon cubes, or you can do like a tablespoon of the paste, then cover it up, and then just stick it in your fridge just like this. When the time comes, pop it in and crank it on high. Get this started early in the day because it's gonna take a while. It's a good 8 hours, but I kind of cut mine a little large. I suggest cutting them into like 1/2-inch pieces, and then they're gonna cook a lot faster, but we did it. You wanna reserve a little bit of our cooking liquid in case we need it. And I'm gonna drain the potatoes, add it back to our slow cooker, right back in, and we add our butter and cream cheese. And we are not gonna be skimpy here. The butter has been softened and so has the cream cheese, and that's gonna make this a lot easier. I like to mash it while it's all melting because the heat from the potatoes is gonna continue to help melt all this. And if it gets too thick, you can, add a little of that cooking liquid. The cooking liquid is because we're not using milk in here. We have enough creaminess from the cream cheese and the sour cream. It's a pretty easy way to do your mashed potatoes. I know I'm gonna need more salt and pepper. Okay, one final zhuzh. Recipes suggest that you can now turn them on low for 2 to 3 hours. It might, fluff them up a little bit with all that cream cheese and sour cream in there. Oh yeah, oh yeah. If you keep your Thanksgiving casual, then you could serve it straight from here. Just give your little edges a white, and then you could garnish it right inside the slow cooker. And that might be your easiest way to ever make mashed potatoes. It does take a while, but when you have them cut up and ready to go the night before, then you're good to go. I like that cream cheese in there. You already get a little bit from the sour cream, but that cream cheese gives it a whole different flavor. While you could serve these up with your Thanksgiving gravy, to be honest, it really doesn't need it. I feel like you're for sure gonna do this one, right? No Thanksgiving menu is complete without a green bean casserole. And what you're gonna notice about this make ahead green bean casserole is that there will be no cans involved. No canned green beans and no can of cream of. And we're gonna start with melted butter. This recipe is interesting because instead of adding milk or something to make our cream of, we're just gonna use sour cream. So I've got my butter melting. I'm gonna go ahead and add my onion now to help flavor this part. You just cook this for just a couple minutes. Also gonna go in with the seasonings, some salt, and also a little bit of sugar. And now a little bit of flour, and then you just cook this down for about a minute. And then a cup of sour cream, which I've never done this before. It's like cream of sour cream. I guess the main purpose here is that that flour will just kind of absorb any liquid from the green beans. I got the frozen French cut green beans because they're just closer to the fresh and they're a little less like mush. So as these thaw, they're gonna release a little liquid and it'll blend in with that roux. Once this comes together, that's basically it. I do want to add some pepper in there. Really, you can put in whatever you want here. So we are ready for the casserole dish. And this one, we're gonna go ahead and top cheese and then the good stuff. Crushed buttery crackers. All right, a little melted butter. Another casserole done. I'm covering with foil because after it's cold throughout, I'm gonna wanna cook it covered for the first part and then uncover it. Another one. All right, it's still really cold, so I'm just gonna pop this green bean casserole in, 350. I'm gonna go about 20 minutes, and then I will uncover and go about another 20 minutes or until it's browned and bubbly. Hot, bubbly green bean casserole. It smells indulgent, cheesy, crunchy, buttery, and the fact that we did not open up a can, it's pretty impressive. You can tell by all the piping hot liquid that we should let this sit and come together. So I'm gonna let it sit for about 10 minutes before we dig in. But it is super creamy, just with 1 cup of sour cream. I love a green bean casserole. I love using the frozen because they still have a little bit of crunch to it. And of course, as it sits, it's gonna be less like runny, it's gonna be thicker. The flavor is amazing. And that little crunchy, crackery, cheesy top. Skip the can this year. This is a great green bean casserole to make ahead. It wasn't until I got older that I started loving having something cold and crunchy to balance out all those casseroles. So Brussels sprout salad is the perfect solution. This, while it is a salad, is somewhere between a salad and a warm vegetable because it comes with a bacon dressing, a warm bacon dressing. So the good news is it's not gonna take up any oven space. So these have been washed and prepped, and I'm just gonna keep them in a Ziploc bag. All right, get out all the air so they don't turn brown. Pop this in the fridge. All right, we are making a warm bacon dressing, but Nicole, how's it gonna be warm the next day? Well, you just pop it in the microwave. So I'm gonna start by cooking the bacon. I'm gonna go ahead and add in a little oil to help render the fat out of the bacon. And then starting the bacon in a cold pan is the easiest way and the best way to render out the fat. Because as the pan heats up, the fat, slowly gets pulled out. All right, bacon is good and crispy, and now it has created all of this oil, and that is the oil for our vinaigrette. I'm gonna add in some brown sugar, and then about a 1/3 cup of the apple cider vinegar. So this one's gonna be a pretty tangy vinaigrette. It's almost as much vinegar as it is fat. The juice of a lemon, and it says to bring this to a boil for 1 minute. I'm also gonna season with a little cayenne and then salt and pepper to taste. That's just to dissolve, make sure that sugar's dissolved, which it is. And then boiling it will just thicken it slightly also. And that's it. So this would go directly over your Brussels sprouts, but I'm just gonna let it cool in here. And then when you're ready to serve, you can just pop the top off, pop it in the microwave to warm it up and pour it over. Serve up this deliciousness right here. Even though it's covered in bacony goodness, I still think of this as a healthy side. This will be a hit. I mean, all my kids would eat this also. They love crunchy salads like this. The dressing is like a sweet and sour, so it kind of balances out the bitterness that you find sometimes in Brussels sprouts. And then you get that kind of like salty crunch from the bacon. But the best part, see like the little nooks and crannies that are within the Brussels sprouts, all that dressing is like getting in there. So when you bite into it, you kind of get the burst of that vinaigrette. The perfect, like, healthy crunch to pair with all those indulgent casseroles. Will be the easiest one if you make that ahead. I have proven that you can make incredible side dishes way ahead of time. That way, you can enjoy the day or focus on the turkey.